Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Workshop Wednesday. Just a general overview of our Workshop Wednesday. It's our monthly workshop where we just invite expert guest speakers to talk about certain topics, issues, or just to come and share information that can be relevant and useful to our community. So tonight we're very excited to have Omari Frazier joining us, and he will be talking to all of us about financial health and just basically about our financial journey and just ways to improve our financial well-being. Omari is currently a manager for community and business development in Paterson, New Jersey, and is also a member of the Black Organization for Leadership Development. He's had over 20 years of experience in the financial industry, so he has had a lot of extensive experience hosting financial health workshops, facilitating nonprofit partnerships, and offering community programs. So he really is a great person to have here today to teach us a little something about financial literacy and wellness. And I know for myself personally, I was never really taught how to grow and maintain my finances long term. So I just know this information is something that everyone should know about, especially if they have any plans to grow their money long term. So with that, I just like to pass this presentation over to Omari. And I just ask that all questions are left until the end. And if you have any questions during the presentation that you don't want to hold on to, feel free to comment them and we'll be able to ask them towards the end of the presentation. The floor is yours, Omari.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening to talk about financial health and your financial journey. As Fada had mentioned, I'm with Chase, and I do have 20 plus years of banking experience. I joined Chase and I joined this role as a community manager because I want to do just that, impact the community, engage with the community on a variety of levels, particularly as it pertains to finances, managing your finances, and your overall financial health. So very passionate about this work. It's something that I've always been engaged with, during my career. But now this gets to be my primary focus. And I just can't tell you how happy and excited I am to be a member and partner with the Paterson community, and also to partner and spend some time with you. So with that, I'll get started with the presentation. One thing too, at the end of the presentation, Fada will bring up an actual QR code to scan, which will be a post-event survey. I ask that you do take advantage of the survey and give me some feedback. We as a community want to know exactly the types of information you're looking to learn more about, how we can always improve our presentations, and just general feedback. That's how we continue to grow and engage with each other within this community. So with that said, your financial journey. I first want to just read a disclosure to you. This is for informational and educational purposes only. These views expressed during the event may differ from other employees and departments of J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. Views and strategies described may not be appropriate for everyone and are not intended as specific advice and/or recommendation for any individual. You should carefully consider your needs and objectives before making any decisions and consult the appropriate professionals. Outlooks and past performances are not guarantees of future results. Just some things that we're going to cover. It's really just three sessions, or rather three parts. One is, your goals and your financial journey. The second, is, building and managing credit. And the third is your financial future starting today. Primarily, we'll be talking about your goals and your financial journey. This actual presentation is one presentation out of a series, and maybe sometime at a later date, I can share the other information with you. So your financial journey, like any journey, right? If you've ever walked anywhere, driven anywhere, taken any trip, you always start with where you are. And when you're starting where you are, ask yourself three main questions. Are you setting a financial goal? Have you created a monthly budget? And have you checked your credit score? The first step of any journey really is knowing where you are right now. With that foundation, you can look at all your options and plan for a smoother journey. You may already have ideas about your future, or you may want to start figuring that out. Either way, the more you know about your money decisions, you're likely to make it along the way. It'll be easier to plan for costs, things that you can expect and don't expect, and certainly those financial surprises. So starting where you are, really, it's never too early to start saving. Think of a time when you saved for a goal. All right. It could have been for a car, it could have been for a home, it could have been for education. Think about how you approached it, and what was the result. Think about why saving is important to you. Being good at saving is less about how much you can save each time, but more about the habit itself. As I always tell folks, no amount is too small to ever get started. And like with anything else too, you have to set goals, your now goals and your later goals. Setting financial goals gives you a direction and keeps you focused on building the financial future that you want. Now, when it comes to setting goals, there's always timelines, right? Just like a journey, you want to be at a certain destination in the journey by such and such point. It helps you to manage and guide and see how you're moving along your journey. And it's no different when it comes to setting your financial goals. Really, when I think about financial goals, it's broken out into four segments. It's your immediate goals, which is anything that's 6 months or less. Short-term goals, which is anything that's 2 years or less. Midterm goals, you figure those are anywhere between 2 and 5 years. And your long-term goals are certainly anything that's 5 years and beyond. So with that said, thinking about your immediate goals, are you earning money with a side job? Have you opened a savings account? Have you started saving with even the smallest of amounts, like $5 a week? It can help you to save for unexpected costs, like, for example, saving for a laptop or a car. Those are examples of short-term goals. Planning for your career. A midterm goal could be, saving to earn your degree, saving to become an entrepreneur, or, trying to save to purchase that home. And longer term goals, you kind of start with your family, becoming a homeowner, and in a lot of cases, planning for your retirement. So those are each examples of what an immediate, short-term, medium, and long-term goals are. Now, this here is just an exercise that we would normally do if we were in person with each other. So I'll bypass this. But if you just take a look at this roadmap, if you will, like, remember how I talked about a journey? You have your beginning, you have your little checkpoints along the way, to see how you're managing towards your goal. And then you have the destination at the end. So for many folks, when they actually have this page, is they'll write what their first goal is, and then they'll put a completion date, right? Second goal, third goal, fourth goal, noticing all have completion dates. And really the purpose of a completion date kind of frames it out for you, whether or not it's short-term, intermediate, midterm, or long-term goals. And sometimes placing that date, when you assign a date to your goals, it's accountability. It's a way of challenging yourself and managing how you're saving to get to that particular point in your financial journey by that particular point in time, hence by the date. Another thing with goals, it's one thing to have a goal, and to try to, put a time frame around it. But if you really get to a point where you're truly managing your goals and you want to hold yourself accountable, you can make your goals SMART. Now, perhaps some of you tonight know or have heard of SMART goals, but I do want to take a minute just to share with you exactly what SMART is. So SMART, it's an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. All right. So when you ever hear of making a goal SMART, that's typically what the person is talking about. Making your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So specific, certainly it's, asking yourself, what is it for? What am I saving for? And when will this happen? Right? being very specific and intentional about choosing and selecting a goal. Measurable. Have a target that you can measure and see how close you are to your goal. So remember how I talked about the journey and being on a journey? If you're going from one destination to another, if you're going from point A to point B, there are little checkpoints around the way, or along the way, I should say, and that's really where the measurement part comes into play. How close are you to your goal, and can you measure it? Achievable. Find that motivation to accomplish your realistic goal. So when you make your goal, when you select what your goal is and you're specific about it, and then you put a time frame around it, or you measure how close you are to the goal, ask yourself, is this goal truly achievable? In most cases it is, because, it's something that you want. You've identified it from a specific standpoint, and you're measuring out how you're going to get there, but making sure that, you keep yourself motivated along the way so that you can accomplish your goal. And then relevancy, creating a reason behind your goal. If you have that reason for why you want something, it will make you more driven to achieve your goal. Is it relevant to your life? Is it relevant to what you're trying to do for your family? Is it relevant to what you're trying to accomplish for yourself? And last but certainly not least, T for time bound. An end date always helps you to keep track of your progress as you reach your goal. So again, thinking about a journey, right? Anytime you've been on any journey, there's always the end point, and in times of making your goals measurable, there's always that end date. And again, holding yourself, when you're bounding yourself to time around a goal, it helps you to keep yourself not only motivated, but it keeps you accountable to, am I taking steps? Am I progressing towards my goal? A brief example, as you can see here on the bottom, is if a person wants to have an emergency fund of $200, right, to start saving or preparing for the unexpected. An example of a SMART goal is to say, all right, I will save $10 a week for the next 20 weeks to reach my target by the end of the year. So again, a small, simple example, with the $200 and the $10 a week, but the person was very specific. $200 was the goal. They measured it, $10 per week for 20 weeks, and then the time bound of it, or the timing of it is, if I stick to the $10 a week for 20 weeks, I'll reach my goal by the end of the year. So again, take some time to reflect on what your SMART goals are. Perhaps some of you had goals in mind prior to attending this workshop. Think about what those goals are. Think about the framework around SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Apply the SMART philosophy to your goals so that you can see, exactly how you're going to achieve them. So another aspect of your financial journey is budgeting, right? So some financial basics, setting up a budget. Just kind of taking a look here at the slide, are you spending less than you earn? Or spending less than you earn is one way to help make sure that you meet your budgetary needs, and hopefully, some of your wants. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look on how you can create a budget that will help you save and spend wisely. So think about what's coming in, right? What are your sources of income now? It could be a primary job. It could be income that you're deriving from a business. Some folks, have part-time jobs, or they engage in a part-time business as a way of bringing in more income. But when you think about your sources of income, ask yourself the question, how do you keep track of your money? Also, you have the money coming in, your income could be from your job or your business. But then you want to begin to say, if I'm budgeting, I know what's coming in. Now let me think about what's going out. So start with, what some of your regular expenses are, those fixed expenses, things like, could be car payment, could be your housing, it could be tuition, whatever those fixed costs are, think about those as your regular expenses. And then begin to think about, unexpected expenses. The car, yeah, you might have a fixed expense every month to pay for your vehicle, but what happens if something happens to your vehicle? That's unexpected. Have you budgeted? Have you thought about how you would absorb an emergency, if that were to happen? So really, what's the bottom line when you're thinking of your budget? So I want you to take a look at this graph here off to the side when it comes to your monthly spending summary. Take a look at what your total income is for the month. Subtract out what your must-pay expenses are. So again, must-pays, like I talked about, those fixed expenses, your housing, your vehicle, in some cases, utilities, whatever your fixed, whatever your must-pay expenses are, think about what those are and put them into that column. And then you think about what your total optional expenses are, such as, if you were to go out to eat or entertain yourself. That's optional. You don't necessarily have to do it. It's not a must pay, but life happens to us all, and we all have we all try to have a balanced life, and that's sometimes where those optional expenses comes into play. And then whatever's left over, really and truthfully, is your monthly savings, right? So let's go through that exercise again. Think about what your total monthly income is. Think about what your must-pay expenses are. Think also about what the optional expenses are, and then whatever's left over typically is, your monthly savings. And when you think about the bottom line, I'll just kind of read over here to the left. If you have more income than expenses, you will have more money to save towards your goals. Now, if you have more expenses than your income, then take a closer look at your expenses and see where you can reduce. What are the things that you need versus what are the things that are nice? What's the need to have? What's the nice to have? And then, what were the things you wanted, but didn't really need? Those are the things that, are probably under the optional expenses category. And that's really, if you find yourself in a situation where your expenses are outweighing your income, the optional category is typically where you can find an opportunity to reduce so that you get back on the measurement side of your SMART goal when you're trying to budget. So, I remember I talked to individuals here and there, even my own personal experiences, whatever I want to save towards something, I would say, save what, right? Where am I going to save money at? You don't think about, you think about all your dollars that are leaving, all your expenses kind of as those must pay expenses, and not necessarily categorize some of them as those optional expenses. But think again, because as they say, a small change can make a big difference. And I want to walk you through this exercise here because this actually right here is probably one of the most powerful pieces of information in this presentation. So you realize if you spend $1 less every day, take a look at what that could add up to, right? So $1 less a day. There's 365 days in a year. $1 less a day is $365. In 5 years, that amount is, $1,826. And think about in 10 years, just by spending $1 less a day, that can total up to $3,652, right? So small change, right? $1 less a day can make a big difference. In 1 year, $365 that's saved. In 5 years, $1,800 that's saved. In 10 years, $3,600 that's saved. Now, if you have more of an opportunity when you think about those optional expenses versus those must-pay expenses, just by spending $5 less a day, right? Think about it. How much is a cup of coffee or a donut or, Just think about something that, you may routinely do every day that costs you in the neighborhood of $5, right? Again, an optional expense. Just by spending $5 less a day in 1 year, that could equal over $1,800. Just by spending $5 less a day, $1,800 in a year. $1,800, can is significant, when you think about things that you're saving towards. But take a look at this. Spending $5 less a day in 5 years equals over $9,000, right? Just by spending $5 less a day in 5 years is over $9,000. And in 10 years, it's over $18,000. So that's significant. You think about some of those. Remember, going back to the goals, right? Going back to making them smart and going back to budgeting. If you think about those optional expenses and where you can save $1 or $5, it can add up and it can get you that much closer to reaching your financial goal. And listen, if you're really aggressive and you really have an opportunity to save some money every day, if you could spend $10 less a day, in 1 year you got $3,600. 5 years, that's $18,000. And look at this, 10 years, over $36,000 that's saved. So, when you really think about, what you spend money on a daily basis, and I think about this myself too, one less cup of coffee, one less donut, right? Maybe I don't have to buy myself lunch every day. Maybe I can, make myself lunch. That small change that can happen over the course of a day will definitely equal a big difference. And again, I just really want to, wrap this up, and really just kind of review a few things that we talked about before we ask these questions. So again, when you think about your financial journey, think about the beginning, think about the journey itself, and think about the end. Along the way from the beginning of your journey to the end of your journey, there are checkpoints, there are things to consider. And when you think about your financial journey, those checkpoints along the way to your goal can be your check-in. Instead of a checkpoint, your check-in. How close am I to hitting my goal? Am I on track for my goal, right? And then we think about the goal itself. Make that goal smart. Make sure that your goal is specific. Make sure that it's measurable. Make sure that it's achievable, relevant, and also it's time bound. Here's the beginning date. Here's the end date. Here's where I'm starting. Here's where I want to finish. And one of the main tools along the way of this journey that you can use to ensure that your goal remains smart, is to budget. Think about that simple exercise of, this is what I'm bringing in per month. These are the expenses that I must pay. These are the expenses that are optional. And after doing that subtraction, whatever's left over is potential money that you can save. And even if that amount seems cloudy to you or not clear, then break it down to, the small change makes a big difference. Think about that slide. Spending $1 less a day, can equal, $365 in a year that you can save. Over $1,800 in the course of 5 years that's saved. Think about $5, over $1,800 that's saved in a year. Yeah. Think about the $10, right? I think it was over $9,000 that's saved per year. So, that money can, it does add up. That small change does make a big difference, and keep those things in mind, hold yourself accountable. Think about your journey. Everything's a journey. There's a start, there's your middle check-ins, and then there's your goal, hitting your goal, your end result. And I'm telling you, you can be on the way to saving towards those goals and achieving your goals. And, it can be quite a wonderful journey. So, in wrapping up and in closing, I want you to think about some of those main takeaways, right? I kind of did a recap of what we discussed, but, think to yourself, what was your main takeaway from this presentation? I want you to also think about what else you need. What else do you need to know to be able to take action, right? You have a goal, or you have a wish and a dream. You want to make it a goal by applying, the SMART philosophy to it. Perhaps making your goals SMART is something that you need to know to take action. Okay. Then also here's something that's very underrated, but I think is highly, highly important. Who's going to be your accountability partner, right? Sometimes when you go on journeys, like even if you break it down to just driving from one point to another, if you have a passenger with you, somebody, alongside of you, they help to make sure that you're staying on route, right? Even if you're by yourself and you happen to have navigation or something to that effect, that is your accountability partner. They're making sure that you get to your destination, telling you to turn right, turn left. Well, in life, we can have those accountability partners, identify somebody that's close to you. And, perhaps you both have the same goal. Perhaps you're both trying to get to the same destination. Make that person your accountability partner. Maybe that person can say something to you such as, hey, did you save that $1 today? Did you save that $5 today? You didn't have that cup of coffee, right? Small, little small things like that, that are reinforced by your accountability partner, can definitely make a difference. So again, think about what your main takeaway is. Think about what it is that you need to know to take action, and think about who could be your accountability partner. All right. So with that said, that's what I have for part 1 of the financial journey. As I mentioned before, there's part 2 and part 3, which hopefully at some point in time I get a chance to share that with you. But in the meantime, I hope you got a lot out of our time together. I hope you truly enjoyed this presentation. And as I mentioned before, FADA will hold up a survey code for you to use, kind of rate the presentation, give me some feedback, and I hope you enjoy. FADA, back to you.
Unfortunately, I don't know why the StreamYard is not allowing me to put the QR code up, but we can make that available to our community for anyone who was on our live stream and wants to fill out the survey. So I don't think I'll be able to pull it up right now. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
But I just wanted to, on behalf of PAC and our community, like to thank you for taking the time to be here today. A lot of what we were talking about is useful information, and it's a really good way to put our goals and our ideas into perspective and make them reality. And we were actually, it's funny, we were just introduced to the Hall Smart goals in a meeting of ours maybe a week ago, and I've always had a hard time following through with my goals. I can always write them down. So actually following through with them has been very difficult for me. So learning about the SMART goals was very useful for me because it kind of made my goals realistic and kind of put a timeline on my goals. So I really do want to thank you again for being here and sharing that information with our community. I'm just going to allow a few minutes for any questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments section. There is only one viewer, so I don't know if you have questions, but we'll stay on.
Okay.
Thank you again, Omari.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, it looks like we're not going to have any questions. But just so everyone knows, we will have a recorded version of this on both our Facebook and our YouTube pages if anyone wants to reference them in the future. And Omari, if you'd like, I'll send you a link to both of those.
All right. I appreciate that very much. And again, thank you for having me. And, make those goals SMART.
Yes. And we'd love to have you again to talk about your next few phases. So we'll be in touch, most definitely.
All right. Wonderful. Let me stop sharing for a second.
Yes.
So I can see you before I go. All right.
Bye, Omari. Thank you again.
You got it.
Have a great night.
You too.